Cool. So, all right, we need a. Should we just talk? Like, I don't really want to like put on a show and be like,
I
oh,
just
this
want to
is
have
the
fun
podcast.
with it, to be honest.
Yeah. So we'll just talk and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So, but we do need an intro. So I'm gonna say, welcome to the Boot Ballers podcast. This is a podcast that was desperately needed because there aren't enough football podcasts in the world right now. So we're just giving what the people need, and by people I mean mom and dad. And we are going to talk on random topics. My brother, who occasionally comes up with a good opinion once in a while. And I'm hoping today will be the day that he drops some knowledge. And with that, let's start the podcast.
I'm fully planning on stirring you up, by the way. Just warning in advance.
Stirring me up.
Yeah.
Bro, I cannot be stirred. I'm shaken. All right. So, all right, let's get into it. So I want to talk a bit about last season because I think there's a big contrast in what's happening right now to where we were this time last year. Personally, I'll tell you my side, and then I want to know your side.
Yeah.
So personally, I feel last season was a learning year. I think there was the implementation of players from our academy. We had Pulisic, we had Kovacic, and I think everyone kind of showed where they are, what level they're at. They weren't obviously at the top of their game, but I think they showed glimpses of what they could do. Talking further down the line, we'll talk about how they've grown and how they've developed into the players they are now. But yeah, it looked like a team full of promise. We shipped out a lot of goals because our defense wasn't great. Goalkeeper wasn't great. Obviously, it was a bad. I feel bad for the guy, but it was a mistake, obviously. So essentially, it was our learning year. It was our transition year. I thought Kovacic was outstanding for several games. Tammy was great. He chipped in with the goals early in the season, and then we could rely on Giroud a bit. But yeah, overall, like I said, transitional year, learning year, and it's brought us to where we are now. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, of course, it was Frank Lampard's second season.
First season.
Sorry? Second
Oh,
season
you
as a
mean
manager.
football?
As a
That's the
manager.
first and last time I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, go on.
Second season as a manager. First
Yeah.
season at Chelsea, of course. But as a manager, I mean, he's Chelsea through and through. And I think it was beautiful to see that combination of the youth and the manager. You know, it was all new grounds to both of them, and I think what showed most was the potential of the youth academy, and it wasn't going to be easy. No one said that. No one said expected even for Chelsea to do as well as they did, coming in fourth at the end of the season. A lot of hiccups, a lot of problems, which you can argue has been solved.
Yeah, including things like selling Eden Hazard.
Of course, Hazard transfer ban. It's
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy. So I think they did extremely well for for squad of young players to be able to perform like that at the Premier League, which is difficult in itself.
To get a top four as well.
Exactly. It's amazing. So I think that they've just shown how much more they've progressed this season as well. They're looking so much more professional. They're looking at the top of it. Reece James, in my opinion, has been so
He's just
solid.
grown.
Yeah,
He looks like a man now. He doesn't look like a guy with potential. He looks like, I think Graham Souness said it like last week, and he said he looks like a finished product now.
exactly. Like when he
And
was
to look like a finished product in your, I mean, I don't even know if he's touched 20 yet, but at that age to look like a finished product is very rare.
when he was at Wigan, he was playing so well, and he was flexible with the positions he could play. He showed a lot of potential. At Chelsea, I think that he showed a lot of good performances. Not every single match did he perform like at his best. But this season, I feel he's been really solid and someone you can depend on.
Do you think? Can I say? Do you think that has something to do with playing as an understudy to Azpilicueta, who obviously has been here since been at Chelsea since 2012. He's got international experience. He's got experience at the highest level. He's won Premier League twice. He's won the Europa League twice. So do you think it's benefited him around his game that he's learned from Azpilicueta, that he's kind of come to this point now?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's a mixture of getting that knowledge and learning from someone like Aspie, who's a veteran. You know, he's been there for ages, and also getting to perform on a regular basis. I think it's just given him that confidence. It's when he steps out on the ground, it's normal to him. It's not something new to be in a Chelsea shirt performing at the top level. It's something he's used to. He has the confidence for that, and it just shows in his performance day and day, each week.
It's quite amazing. It keeps getting talked about, but the options that England have at right back, right from Trent Alexander-Arnold to Wan-Bissaka, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, and now they've got Reece James. And of course, there's always going to be bias on here on this, but for me, when I look at right backs, what do I want for my right back? I want them to be able to defend first and foremost. For me, Wan-Bissaka, of the 4 or 5 right backs that we have, is probably the best defensively. I don't think you're getting past him, that easily. And if that's what we're looking for, I think Wan-Bissaka is probably our best right back. We've got Trent, who obviously he doubles up as a winger essentially. I think he's a bit weak defensively. Kyle Walker, I think he's got an error in him. I think that's my only issue with Walker, but otherwise he's nearly perfect week in, week out. But I'm seeing Reece James this season, like from last season as well, and he just looks like a perfect balance of everything. And I think there is an error in him right now, but I think that's also inexperience. I don't think it's down to him not being able to work on it and kind of come to a point where he eradicates those kind of errors. I think when he marks the guy, he comes too far down the line, and then he leaves all that space behind him empty for kind of Zuma to cover or whatever. And I think it's happened a few times. I think it happened against Sheffield last season. I can't remember who it happened against this season, but like it's something that he needs to work on. But I think if he works on that, you've got the perfect right back.
Exactly. I mean, his defensive abilities are great. Going forward is great. His technical abilities are just a bonus, if you ask me. To be able to do those kind of crosses, being able to shoot from such a long range, is just bonus for what he's capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. His link up with Ziyech as well. Well, I should say his name right. Ziyech is going to be very, very tasty.
I mean, they've already before we get on really well.
Yeah. The last couple of games have been absolutely fantastic to see them both together. But before we jump on that, I wanted to look at our weaknesses from last season and kind of talk about how we managed to, well, as far as we've seen, strengthen those areas and kind of go forward with the players that we've signed as well. So last season we had Willian, Pedro, Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic. Pulisic, we know, is quite injury prone. He missed quite a few games. Hudson-Odoi, the same. I think he was injured for a few games as well, and he was just couldn't be relied upon for fitness reasons. So I think Pedro and Willian got a lot of games. And we had obviously Tammy and Giroud up front. So I don't think that's changed. Obviously, we've got Timo Werner this year. Midfield is where I think things have changed a lot with the signing of Kai Havertz. N'Golo Kante has moved into that central role. He's no longer playing the kind of forward surging midfielder role. And I just want to discuss. So we started kicked off the transfer window with Hakim Ziyech or Ziyech. I'm going to have an absolute nightmare with this. Do you know what the problem is? Lampard says Ziyech, and then I heard him say Ziyech, and then the Champions League commentators call him Ziyech. So I hope we get to a point where we can just agree on, just call him Hakim, innit? Hakim Z.
Big Z.
Right. So, exactly, the big Z. He's not that big though. Anyway, so we kicked it off with Hakim Ziyech, and tell me what you think about him. How you think he's kind of settled in, and what you think of what he can give us like last season.
I think we had already seen what Ziyech can do in the Champions League, especially in that season where they reached the semi-finals.
Right, yeah.
He already announced himself to the world, so his technical abilities were well known. Well, they were already established. I think the matches where Chelsea faced Ajax and Ziyech was playing for Ajax, I think that was just that was a bit of fun. Really, that was him introducing himself.
He was toying with them.
You know, that I still remember that shrug after his free kick goal.
The one that whacked Kepa in the face.
My head, I always think he's just saying, "Why aren't you signing me, guys?"
I think sometimes I wonder if that was the point that Kepa, it just went wrong for Kepa. Like, I never saw, you know, I really like Kepa. I don't really want to talk much about it because I feel for the guy, but geez, like after that game, it just wasn't. I just didn't look at Kepa the same.
Yeah, I think there was I don't know if I'm correct about this, but I think I may have come across some memes where it was Kepa as the manager saying, "Sign him," like so that he doesn't get to shoot against me again.
Yeah. Jeez, I know, it was so bad. Anyway, I don't want to, you know, I hope he comes back to form because I mean, not just for him, but I mean, we paid 70 million for him. I hope we get even a fraction of that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope well for every single one of our players, to be honest. So
yeah, okay.
But yeah, back to
there's a guy that wears number 3. Anyway,
wow, okay. No, back to
Hakim Ziyech.
Yeah. So I could just see that creativity. You know, it's felt similar to those vibes that you get when Fabregas was announced. There's going to be a certain play style that can be implemented.
Yeah, there's a playmaker that we've got. You know, kind of left-footed, goes down the wings, cuts in. Whips those ridiculous balls into Quincy Promes. It's everything that you really want, you know.
And we saw it straight away in pre-season in the match versus Brighton, that Timo Werner goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, my first thought when we signed him was, I think Lampard's looking at him the way we kind of looked at Juan Mata. Yeah. So someone that could kind of keep the ball, loves kind of distributing it and you know, creates and whips balls into the dangerous areas, gives strikers and wingers and even fullbacks a chance to latch onto them and, you know, score kind of direct from those balls. So very interesting, exciting signing. I completely agree. I think he's probably going to be one of our most important attacking players this season.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, with the players that we've got, and you know, one of those players that are going to be getting delivery from Ziyech Hakimi is my guy Timo Werner.
Yeah, should we move on to Timo Werner?
Coming from let's but obviously I watched a lot of Werner at, I want to say his name right at least, but I watched a lot of Werner at Leipzig, Red Bull Leipzig, who have obviously kind of risen very quickly from the bottom leagues. He's been kind of instrumental since he signed for them, since he signed from Stuttgart, and you know, he's been kind of their star player. You know, the guy that kind of leads the line and gets their goals. I think it was something ridiculous like 30 or 35 goals he scored last season. And he's also, you know, a creator. He also creates from wide. He can play, you know, wing, striker. I felt we lacked, you know, finishing last season. Definitely. I think we got ourselves into really good positions to score, and we just kind of missed that, you know, that cutting edge, that end product that I think Giroud provided a lot of towards the end, which is why we kind of secured top 4. But I think with someone like Timo Werner, you're guaranteed someone that will run in behind, you know, clever enough to link up play. He can score from different ranges. He's good with his head. He's good with his weak foot. And overall, you know, most people are saying he's going to be of the Harry Kanes and the Jamie Vardys and the Aubameyangs of the Premier League, and really get those numbers up. And, you know, hopefully have a really good career with us. So, what do you think of him as a player?
I think he's very capable of reaching the top. as a top goal scorer in the Premier League. He's got a lot of good qualities: pace, left foot, right foot, as you mentioned, header. I think he has all that you'd really need for getting a lot of goals on your sheet.
And he's got obviously a lot of international football under his
Mm-hmm.
belt already, so his clout is maximum level
Yeah,
right
I
now.
think he just needs a bit more time to integrate fully into the Chelsea team. He's doing
Yeah.
quite.
So where do you see his permanent role kind of being? Because let's put it this way: the last couple of games, Tammy Abraham, I think, has been really, really good, really strong, really kind of developed from what he was
Mhm.
last season. He's kind of dropping back and playing. I wouldn't say the Firmino role because I think it takes a lot to execute that role properly of a false nine. But he's really, kind of dropping deep, allowing Werner to come in, letting Ziyech, go a bit narrow and create from narrow ways. Um, a lot of the debate has been about should he be playing as a striker or should he be playing as a kind of winger, the type of kind of Sadio Mane who plays really narrow and allows Andy Robertson to go wide as a wing back, or do you see him as a out and out striker, your mercurial kind of guy that gets behind defenders and knows how to score the goals?
That's where I find a bit of difficulty because I can't quite pinpoint what is his best role, his best position. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I thought that maybe he'd be playing next to Giroud because Giroud is a great target man, be able to feed it to Werner to do those runs behind the defender. I thought that would have been perfect tactic, but Frank Lampard hasn't gone with that, and yet Werner's still doing quite well. He's getting a lot of a lot of chances that he's creating his own chances as well. I think his xG record is extremely good right now. So I can't quite pinpoint it. It'll reveal itself.
Do you think it's something that he knows or Lampard knows, or do you think it's something that they're just kind of experimenting with right now because he's new to English
Yeah,
football, and obviously he's a very pacey player, very quick off the mark kind of thing. Do you think they're just kind of um, they're working out whether he's more effective from wide, where he can run in diagonally, or kind of is he better off as a striker that can run in centrally, behind the defenders? Do you think it's just sort of that at this stage and nothing's kind of set in stone right now?
I think they're both aware of what he can do. I think it's just a matter of focusing on one strong part of what he can do because he's all of the challenges that have been put before him. He's overcome them, and I think that it's been more focused on what the other players can do and how they can play because he's just able to
Yeah.
drop into a position, left wing striker, and he's just performing. So I think that they're going to have to give it some time. And as you said, climatizing to the English Premier League, I think you just said recently that it's made him tougher. He's getting used to the physical challenge. So I think he will be the best judge of it, to be honest, where he's playing the role he plays.
Kind of sorted. Um, Jumping on to Kai Havertz real quick. I don't think personally there's not a lot that I need to say about him. I think if you've watched him in the Bundesliga, if you've watched him play for Bayer Leverkusen, he's an extremely promising player with a lot of potential. He's, for me, when I watch him, I had the opportunity to watch Michael Ballack in his prime. I got the opportunity to watch Mesut Ozil from 2009-10. And this guy just looks like a combination of both of them. He looks like a playmaker that has real kind of midfield power and ability to um, work as a number eight. Kind of a left-footed Frank Lampard
Mm-hmm.
who can arrive late into the box. Um, Ability to link up play. It's just he's such a great
Yeah.
weapon to have when you're looking to win a game or you're looking to kind of be the difference maker in a big game. And I see a lot of potential for him at Chelsea. But there's been a lot of debate about where his best position is. Obviously, Lampard at the start of the season played him on the right wing because we didn't have Ziyech, fit. Played him as a number 10 or as a supporting striker with Werner. And now, because we've gone 4-3-3, he's got Havertz playing central midfield, kind of an advanced central midfielder, um, almost forming a kind of hexagon,
Yeah,
around Kante. What do you think of his position, or do we think of his ability,
I think he's very
just
happy with his
generally?
position, and he's enjoying it a lot because he gets to play the style of football that he enjoys playing. He gets to do the things that he wants to do. He enjoys the ball at his feet. He enjoys he enjoys just he enjoys distributing it too.
That's okay. Episode one. Episode one. We're allowed to make mistakes.
I, do you know what? I think
Don't do
I'm
it
just
again,
that excited
obviously.
about the way that Havertz plays because it's refreshing. He's capable of so many roles.
Absolutely.
He could even play a striker. I think he played as a striker in his first season at Bayer
Last year he
Leverkusen.
did, yeah. No, last year he
Yeah,
played very advanced
and he did
for Bayer
exceptionally well at it
Leverkusen,
as
yeah.
well. So I think he's
Yeah.
also said that the position he's playing right now is
Play
exactly where
striker
he.
or winger, because we've obviously got two very promising wingers, young wingers in Callum Hudson-Odoi and Christian Pulisic, who've both proven to be very kind of effective in games. They affect results with their attacking runs and their dribbling and their
Mhm.
scoring ability. Um, where do you see their future lying in the near future, at least? Because we've obviously got, for me, you can't leave Ziyech out of the team. He's too much of a threat to leave out. And then you've got Timo Werner, who's obviously a goal threat. He will guarantee you goals. And then I think it comes down to Tammy Abraham, Christian Pulisic, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. So who do you think will win that spot in the team? Assuming that we are going to be playing 4-3-3, that Kai Havertz is going to be playing regularly, that Mason Mount is going to be playing regularly. Who do you think will win that battle?
Well, firstly, assuming that there's no injuries as such, I think it will be Christian Pulisic on the left, Werner as striker, and Ziyech on the right. And I think that it's a 90-minute game, so it's not that Cho won't get any game time at all. I think that it bodes really well that, such an explosive winger as Christian Pulisic gets time on, gets some resting time and doesn't play a full 90 minutes. So I think alternating
Yeah,
between them is actually very, very beneficial. It's he's come to a club which has been really successful in the last 20 years, especially. Hasn't found too much success in the last few years, as he said. But I think he's looking to change that, and he has that winning mentality.
yeah, absolutely. It's a German mentality. You can't beat it. Honestly, German players 50 years from now are going to be the same as they've been, 50 years before today. So it's quite telling. I think Lampard himself knows what the kind of industrial mentality that the players have when they come from
Mm-hmm.
from Germany, when they're developed there. They never stop. They're always on the move. They're so quick and so technically sharp. You want a German in your team, come what may. And I think he's kind of seen the potential there, and yes, grateful to him for being able to convince those two. Um, so yeah, we've got an absolute gem, thankfully. Um, let's jump on to quickly Thiago Silva and Edouard Mendy. I want to talk about Edouard Mendy first because I think there's a bit. I mean, I could go on about Thiago Silva for a while, but let's talk about Edouard Mendy. He's coming from the French league um, with Rennes, who have qualified for the Champions League, who are in our Champions League group. So obviously a very successful team last season. Senegalese goalkeeper. I believe he's the first African goalkeeper
Mm-hmm.
at Chelsea, but something else. There was also something else. So he's got a great story. A few years ago, he was obviously considering leaving football, and he had a few issues with his agent, so he was on the cusp of leaving football completely. He ran into financial difficulties, I believe, and it's quite incredible. At 28, he's signed for Chelsea for £30 million. He's come in, and again, I don't want to really be too harsh on Kepa, but he's really set the stage. He's been fantastic. every time I watch him, he's been impressive. He's got great reflexes. He's really calming presence, surprisingly, because from what I've read and what I've kind of seen on the pitch, he is very vocal and very involved in the game. Kind of, and I mean, traditionally, that's what you want from your goalkeeper, kind of guy that has a bit of a screw loose, so that you can kind of keep your defenders switched on and make sure that they're carrying out their duty. Um, but yeah, for me, he's been fantastic, and I hope he carries on this brilliant form for the rest of the season. Do you see him as a player that has come to replace Kepa, or do you think he's come in to kind of give Kepa more of competition and then kind of sit back and be a second choice? Because right now it's easy to say that I want him to be our first choice. He's doing everything right. But where do you see him as a player at Chelsea?
I think both Cech and Frank, Frank Lampard, I think they both brought him in to give stability, because I mean, when he came, I saw him primarily as a second choice goalkeeper that will be playing ahead of Kepa because he'll be in better form. So I think he's performed so well that there's no reason not to see him as a first choice goalkeeper. And yeah, that's mostly it, because he's been playing well. He was they never really pushed out Kepa as such. They were quite happy to say Kepa's still here. Kepa is still our first choice, but he's not performing right now. So we need to bring this guy in, and he's going to do the job for us, at least for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And goalkeepers, it's such a difficult position to kind of maintain. You have to be at a high level constantly. You're not allowed to really make mistakes over 3-4 games, otherwise you will be dropped. But his mentality is such, from reading his story, sometimes I don't really like factoring in a player's personal life into their professional life, but I just feel the things that he's been through, I can't see anything kind of phasing him, with regards to what he does as a player. And that kind of, in the same way, I remember Michael Lemilano saying, talking about N'Golo Kante when we first signed him, that he came in, he comes into work every day in a Mini Cooper. He's very quiet, doesn't really like the cameras, and he kind of gets on with his job, and he enjoys himself on the pitch. And he's obviously a huge superstar in everyone's eyes, but he's one of those players that just kind of doesn't pay attention to it and doesn't kind of feed off it or need it. To him, it's just his day job kind of thing. And I feel with those kind of players who have come from not a lot, it is very telling of their ability when they are able to consistently perform at a high level, at a club like Chelsea. So, I really do hope it works out for him and he keeps up this form and goes on to do great things. I know they've made a lot of comparisons with Petr Cech because of the statistically they've both kept the same amount of clean sheets from their first 5 Premier League games or something like that. So he's obviously a player with good ability. He's had to make saves. He's had to be there in decisive moments and be aerially strong. So he's would say one for the future, but one for the present, definitely.
And he's made some fantastic saves as well in the games that he's played so far.
Absolutely, yeah. So, all right. Finally, my favorite. Sorry, my favorite. The guy that I'm so happy that we signed. I was hoping. I mean, I've wanted us to sign.
I remember you telling me about this before he even came into the news. All the rumors started. I remember you telling me he's a free agent. We should definitely get him. I remember you telling me that
way before. It was so kind of so much in the past that I hoped that we sign him. It was in 2011 when he played for AC Milan. I remember the year my heart was broken because we were looking to sign Edison Cavani and from Napoli, and it didn't happen. So I was heartbroken about that. And then I thought Thiago Silva's on the move. I know PSG are interested in him, but obviously they're the ones that ended up with him. But you wouldn't expect to sign a 36-year-old Thiago Silva and be absolutely over the moon with it. He's a guy that comes with tremendous experience. I've watched him obviously because of PSG in the Champions League over the years, especially against us. And then I know he played really well in the Champions League last season Champions League last season, and he doesn't look like a guy that's really aged, but he looks like someone that is just extremely experienced and really kind of aware of what he's capable of. Positionally, I think so much about John Terry when I look at Thiago Silva. I know the argument will always be, John Terry didn't have the speed, so he couldn't play in a high line. But I think in terms of intelligence and in terms of how aware they are as defenders of what's happening on the pitch, you can't put a price on experience when it comes to a defender. And I think experience generally is quite overrated when it comes to winning games. I think you need it, but I don't think it's absolutely essential. But I think that he's kind of changed my opinion here. I'm seeing a different Chelsea team. I'm seeing a confidence that I haven't seen in the team for a long, long time. And the ability that the guy has, coupled with his experience and the way he kind of marshals players around, it's just phenomenal to see. It feels like we have John Terry back, but he's Brazilian, 36 years old, in incredible shape, by the way. He also wears the captain's armband. Have we absolutely just struck gold here for at least the next 2 seasons?
Yeah, it was actually a dream signing without any money involved, getting some of that quality. When he's defending, he just does what you think you're meant to do as a defender, and he does it even quicker than that. He's just so many steps ahead. He knows what's going to happen. I think he's seen it time and time and again. And because he's been so good at defending, it's just second nature to him. He doesn't even need to think about it. He knows to check over his shoulder once, twice, thrice to see if the opposition is there. His positioning is fantastic. His work rate is fantastic, and he's able to hold his line, able to communicate well with the rest of the team.
36 years old. I have to keep going back to it. 36 years old. Like you said, he's able to hold a high line. It's just unheard of at this level. It's unheard of.
His distribution is fantastic as well. I've seen him distribute time and time and again.
Incredible passing.
And it's amazing. I haven't seen Zuma do it
incredible
like that well. I haven't seen Zuma do it that well. I hope he picks it up, because what a defender Zuma would be if he picks up any bit of qualities from Thiago Silva.
I wanted to talk about Zuma as well. So what I wanted to ask is, do you think Zuma has and will become a better defender by playing alongside Thiago Silva? Or do you think it's very interesting, because I've always felt Zuma has had ability. He had that horrible injury in 2015 that kind of took a bit of time for him to get back to his normal level, and he relies a lot on his speed, he relies a lot on his physical presence. But I think one very underrated quality about him is he's technically very good, and I think it's difficult to see that because of his size and because of his presence on the ball. He makes the ball look, like a ping pong ball. But his long range passing, his ability to receive very quickly, play a high line, obviously, recycle possession, I think goes very unnoticed for some reason. But I think that's gone, in some way, it's gotten even better.
We've had this.
With Thiago Silva
we've had a very similar conversation when you first brought up the idea of Thiago Silva joining Chelsea. I said Zuma will improve a lot more because he has someone next to him who's actually better than him. And it's not just about learning, but he has that state of mind that, okay, if I mess up, I know someone's there to do it. But at the same time, he will take responsibility for his play. And I think that, as you said, he is quite technical, but I think he needs to show it a bit more. I think he does need to show it a bit more. Maybe it's just not, really picked up on because of his physicality. But it's amazing to see both of them play together. I think it's a great partnership.
Do you think that's our permanent back to our two centre backs now? Do you think
if they're performing this way, if they're getting these kind of results, then you can't change that. That has to stick. If one of them drops form, who comes in? Well, that's the that is what is happening right now.
In your opinion, now, I just want to know your opinion on who you think is our best
See, all the
third centre
defenders
back.
are, they're all trying to improve. They're all trying to fight their way into that top, into that starting sheet. So I think it may be Rudiger. I think he's putting a lot of effort into being more reliable, and he's been given a few small opportunities, just a few small windows to play and show that he can be relied upon. But I don't think he can. I don't think he can put his name on the first sheet whilst Zuma and Silva are playing the way they are right now.
I mean, I like Christensen. I just don't think he's up to it. When you look at how good Thiago Silva's been, Kurt Zuma's been, and we can discuss this on another podcast, entirely, because we can have a huge long conversation about this. I love Bukayo Tomori. I really like Christensen. I think he's good at what he does. I think he can be caught out, but right now, we can't really go wrong with Thiago Silva and Kurt Zuma. They just look so commanding and so kind of ready for whatever's to come, whether it's Bayern Munich or whether it's FC Krasnodar. They look ready to play any team in world football.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of good options in terms of defenders, and I just think that they really need to make sure that they stay on top form, keep on improving, just working on it, and I think they have I think that they will look to fight, compete, and why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they?
Okay, so the next topic of discussion I wanted to talk about was your thoughts on the start of this season, which for me wasn't kind of ideal because there was no preseason. It kind of, the first few games became preseason games, and we saw that because there was a switch in formation several times. There was a switch in personnel on the pitch. So we weren't really getting the results. We had Kepa in goal. Our defense wasn't really sorted. I think we lost valuable points at the start of the season. I think that's fair to say. We kind of let Leeds, go, and not Leeds United, who are brilliant this season, by the way, but Leeds, going 1 and 2-0 up, slip, and up to this international break, there's been so many changes, and it's gone from completely negative, where I felt there was no real style of play, no tactics, just vibes sort of football. And it's gone to all tactics and a lot of vibes football. And I think that the switch was when we went to 4-3-3.
What game was it that we did that? That we did that switch to 4-3-3.
I believe it was. I could be wrong, but I think it was Krasnodar. Or I believe it was Krasnodar.
Yeah.
Or the game before that. It was one of those. Which I don't remember what it was. If we had a researcher, that would be great, but that's not in budget right now. So yeah, it was one of those games. Well, we have a conversation to have after.
No, it was crazy. I think it was also unfortunate because Ziyech got injured in preseason. That the one preseason match that we had against Brighton, he got injured, and I think that kind of just that put a spanner in the. Is that the correct term? Put a spanner in the fix. Spanner in the works. There we go.
Spanner in the works. Yeah, spanner in the works. I'm a mechanic.
Yeah, it just put a spanner in the works because he was the whole creation. All the creativity. It could be so much of it would be done through Ziyech. They hadn't had a chance to really understand each other's play style. Fully just be more aware of what their teammates would be doing. All the players I'm talking about. So I think that it's even unfair to judge Lampard fully on the formations that he set up, the players that he's played in those positions. I think he's had his reasons, and it started to really work when we focused on keeping clean sheets. That's really when it was starting to come together, and because then you started to have players also who were injured or who were not fully accustomed to the game, to the English Premier League at least.
You think it was a confidence thing? So because the goalkeeper was
We
confident,
got
the
more
midfielder, so on and so forth.
we got less uncertainty about who would be starting, what the roles would be, where we're playing. I think we started to play extremely well as well when we had Mendy coming on. Started to get good results.
Yeah.
Thiago Silva became more regular. Chilwell was, I think,
Yeah, I
great
forgot
from
to
the
talk about
beginning.
Chilwell, by the way. The last couple of games, so since we're on this topic of 4-3-3, the last couple of games, Ben Chilwell, he's, I mean, he's looking like an Andy Robertson region. Is that how you say it? I'm too
I
old to
wouldn't
say
know.
that word, but is it region?
Maybe it's
REGEN, like a regeneration. I'm going to look like such a knob on this. But yeah, okay, so he he kind of doubles up as a winger. I'm seeing. I think a lot of Chelsea fans had doubts about Chilwell as a player because of his defensive ability. I think he
yeah,
got ran past quite a few times last season. You know, he wasn't very strong in the tackle.
yeah.
He got that heel injury, obviously, at the end of last season. So there were a lot of doubts, but I think from what we've seen the last few games, the guy just looks charged up. He looks ready to go. He looks like a. I mean, I don't like to compare players to Ashley Cole because I think he was one of a kind, but in terms of the confidence that I have on my left back and get into attacking positions, but also having the energy to get back
Yeah,
and do his
yeah,
defensive
definitely.
work.
I've seen him run up and down the pitch so many times. I just think, how does he have the lungs for that?
Um, okay, so it's fair to say I think the 4-3-3 has worked. There's been a lot of balance in that midfield, which I think has kind of been a positive for the attack and for the fullbacks. The defenders can push high. Um, Mason Mount, I want to talk a bit about Mason Mount because he's been a talking point, not just for Chelsea, but for England as well. Um, a lot of people tend to say Mason Mount is not a great player. He's not, showing enough to kind of
Yeah,
be discussed with the likes of Jack Grealish, with James Maddison, who was brilliant last season. Ross Barkley, who's now on the rise at Aston Villa. I've always wanted the guy to succeed, and thank goodness
Mhm.
he's doing good things right now. What is your opinion on him? Do you think he deserves to be kind of talked amongst them? Do you think
It's a lot
what
Mason
do you
Mount
think of his
this and Mason
ability
Mount
just
that at this
generally?
point. But I think
He sounds like a Rock and
no,
Pocket song.
he's working well. He's doing what the manager wants him to do. He's putting in the shift. He's doing what he needs to do. I don't see why he should be compared to anyone. Why anyone else's name should be put in a sentence of Mason Mount. As long as he's keeping the manager happy, as long as he's doing what he can do, like the best, he's getting results.
What does he do? This is the crucial part of the argument. What does Mason Mount do? Because I know what he does in terms of what he brings to a team, which is very simply put, energy, ability to press, good passer, he has a good shooting range, and he's just constantly switched on. He's got so much energy. He's like Ben Chilwell in midfield. That's what I think of him as a player. What do you think?
You've seen him press defenses, press goalies,
Right.
and getting the ball, recovering it, even catching defenders off guard and getting a goal from it. And it's great. It's exactly he performed his work ethic is. I think I could compare it to Willian in a way. When he was playing just constantly disrupting play.
Could you compare it to Lampard? Could you compare it to Lampard, who missed very few games for Chelsea? He played 90 minutes almost
Exactly. We
every
can,
week.
not showing signs of tiredness. I just worry about that mainly, just the fact that he is playing constantly, if it's going to have an effect on him. I hope it doesn't, but he's not showing any signs of slowing down at all in his gameplay.
Point you kind
Mm-hmm.
of mentioned the guy Willian. A lot of managers loved Willian because of what he
Yeah,
contributed on the pitch, his work rate on the pitch, his ability to retain the ball, his ability to kind of dribble
yeah,
with the ball into dangerous areas and creating space, the ability to track back. Those are all very important ingredients for a successful team, no doubt. I think the argument was his end product was never great. He never scored a lot of goals, never made a lot of assists. So automatically, when you're an attacking
yeah,
player, you are going to be critiqued for those things. But I think for a manager, there are certain players that are absolute dream players that will give you everything for 90 minutes, game after game after game. And Mason Mount seems to be one of those. And I think with his technical ability, his passing, like I said, his shooting and his ability to disrupt play, like you mentioned, he is an ideal player for a 4-3-3.
He's that dream player that you want in your midfield to do all those things. I think that he does show his technical ability as well. I think that I don't focus on it because I'm too focused on how much movement he does on the pitch, how much movement he makes. So I think that he has a lot of opportunity to show how good he is. He can play exactly the way he desires, and he's said it himself. He is a number 8, and that's his best position. So I think just give him some time to really show what he can do, because he's already doing it. But I think he has a lot. He has a lot more to show.
Shout out to Kovacic, by the way, an absolute monster of a midfielder who doesn't get anywhere near the amount of recognition for the things that he does. But I think going forward, it is very evident that we are playing very, very well with Mason Mount as a left-sided number 8. You can't really keep Kai Havertz out, so unfortunately, someone has to miss out, and I think Kovacic is that man. Going on to kind of the rest of the balance in midfield with Kante and Havertz, it didn't surprise me that Kante was phenomenal in the central role.
I wasn't expecting it at all.
It really didn't. But at the same time, no. And you say you weren't expecting it, but I've always been the guy that kind of said Kante's not a defensive midfielder. You don't know him if you think he's a defensive midfielder. And the thing is, he's not a defensive midfielder. He's just that good at adapting to wherever he is on the pitch that it's hard to kind of see him in any other position now. I mean, he scored a goal for France last night, playing in a similar role with Rabiot and Pogba. The guy is just everywhere.
The hexagonal shape that is formed around Kante, and I think that's exactly why it's working out so well, because he has so many passing options.
I have to say as well, when you look at hexagonal midfields or teams, the guy that's been at the center of the most successful teams in recent history, at least, we had Sergio Busquets, who played that role for Barca, Philipp Lahm, who played that role for Bayern under Guardiola. For Real Madrid, I think Modric and Kroos are not as advanced midfielders. I think they have the ability to go forward. Casemiro has that ability to receive and pass. But when you think of Sergio Busquets and you look at N'Golo Kante, you're not expecting the same thing, just because we haven't seen enough of Kante in that particular role, I think. And I think that's why it's not that I was surprised by it. I think I was just kind of taken aback at how good he was so instantly. And it started last season against Villa. I think he played it against Villa. And he just looked like he had played there for years. He didn't need a midfield partner. He didn't need anyone to kind of to help him out or anything. But he's just looked absolutely phenomenal.
So, I mean, I think they should just keep on going with it, because it's working out. It's working out.
Does that spell the end of Jorginho?
I think Jorginho will have to adapt. He will have to adapt. I think that he can. There is a role he can play, and I think that it's one where he has to put in a lot more effort in terms of defensive work. I think, but I mean, in all fairness to him, I've seen him running up and down the pitch, making tackles where possible. So it's just about Lampard's faith in him and Jorginho's, effort that he puts in. I mean, he's great in terms of passing, great in terms of passing, great in terms of vision. The only issue is when he's pressed and he doesn't get that chance to do it. So maybe it would work actually quite well for him in that hexagonal shape, because he has more passing options. So that's one to look out for, I think.
Interesting. I think also Billy Gilmour has come back from injury, and he's a firm favourite. He's a firm favourite of Lampard. We have Ethan Ampadu, who's obviously can play between defence and midfield, the central defence midfielder role. We've been linked with Declan Rice, who we'll keep for another day because I love that guy. But we can talk about him another time. But I think there's a lot. Essentially, there's a lot options that we have for that position, and I don't think by any
Yeah.
means that we are kind of struggling there. I'd love to see Kante just carry on and be as good as he's been, breaking up play and passing the ball around, being there to receive the ball.
Yeah.
Long may it
It's
continue. I
exciting.
mean,
Exciting.
let's see how it works out. Kovacic is hasn't really defined his role. He is a sort of jack of all trades sort of midfielder. He can play in different positions. Whether he can execute it to the highest standard, I don't know, because as an advanced midfielder, you're expected to be more involved in the final third and kind of be up there in the scoring charts and assist charts, key passing. I think Kovacic is great dribbler, and I love the guy. But when we're looking for results, if we want to win trophies, is he the guy that will take us there? I'm not too sure. I'm not sure he's the answer. But he would be
Yeah,
aesthetically very
definitely.
pleasing to play that role. So I just wanted to talk about quickly the role of Kai Havertz, since we've covered literally everyone now. He's. I think I could say the same things that I said about Mason. I could say about Havertz. Both are very hardworking. They're both technically very good. They're both able to contribute in the final third, and both are extremely young. So they have a lot of years ahead of them to kind of learn their game and what they do. And I see them both just being exceptional midfielders for those roles.
Yeah, absolutely. They so much potential, so much they can do with the ball, without the ball. So
yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just jump quickly into I don't want to jump into him, but Jack Grealish. There's been a real hype around him this season, last season. He's a player that has taken kind of Villa on his back, carried them. He's an exceptional talent, obviously. There's a lot of talk of him being a 50-60 million pound player next summer. Do you see him? I mean, firstly, I want to get your opinion on him. Secondly, do you think he's someone that we should be interested in, given that Jorginho and Kovacic's future aren't entirely clear? Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of stirring the pot.
Whether he would suit us right now, I have no clue. I really don't know whether he would fit in well, whether he'd work. I think it's all up to Frank Lampard, how he wants to play it. If he feels that Grealish would actually be capable of having a role that would be well defined for him.
Yeah, absolutely same. But I think also we have to consider that we have Mason Mount, Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, obviously one of the maybe top 5, top 10 young players in Europe right now. They're expecting him to be an absolute world beater. So it'd be difficult to kind of say, Grealish comes in for Havertz. Mason Mount, I mean, again, we don't like to really hype. We shouldn't really hype players up, but he's another player with immense potential. I'm getting Kevin De Bruyne vibes from him.
Frank Lampard recently said that he's excited for Barkley to come back as well, the way he's performing right now.
I just can't see. There's so much talent there. There's Ruben Loftus-Cheek. There's Ross Barkley. There's these guys. And then there's the possibility of us signing. Again, I want to talk about that guy on a separate podcast because, my God, he's good. So, I mean, as far as Jack Grealish goes, I hope the guy, does really well. And if he wants to kind of get a move to a Man United, who already have about 17 attacking midfielders, or Tottenham, those kind of clubs, I think he'd easily get into theirs. But I just can't see anyone, and not just Grealish. I mean, by the way, it's not just for Grealish, but any attacking midfielder promising amount there.
We're quite packed with midfielders right now, and we even have youth prospects as well that could come in. I mean, Timo Anjorin as well. He's another exciting prospect.
Yeah, we've got loads of those coming through.
Yeah,
we have no reason to worry at the moment. Got what's the guy's name? Lewis Bate, also apparently really highly rated. But we can do like I said, an entire podcast on youth football and also Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice gets his own podcast. But anyway, let's just talk about quickly the 2 more things. Players to watch. So who are your players to watch this season? Who do you think is going to really break their barriers and Well, let's put it this way: not star player, but someone that we know is going to be a regular
Um,
star of Chelsea,
I'd
young player.
say I'd say Chilwell. I feel that it'll be great to see how often he plays to the
Great shout.
the ability that he does.
On a world football scale, if we have Andy Robertson, Alphonso Davies,
I'm not going to compare these players.
who else is about? Ferdinand Mendy. No, not to compare, but do you think he can be talked about in the same breath as them right now, kind of developed to that
If
point?
Chelsea perform consistently that well, and if they get if they get that success, and whether he performs that well or not, I think it's down to how well Chelsea does as a whole. Because they'll only be talked about if only the the only the winners will be talked about in the end. But I think that Chelsea, the way they're performing right now,
Absolutely.
the way they can play, the way they are playing, they can easily do exactly that. And I think that Chilwell can be recognised on that kind of level because he seems very capable of it.
I mean, he's England's left back for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
I can't see anyone coming
he's got
close to him.
phenomenal ability, amazing work rate. He just does it all for a left back.
It is quite incredible. I think he said it himself, but Lampard wanted to build an English core because the previous one was so successful. And you look at the English players that we have now, it's him, it's Chilwell, it's Reece James, it's Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount. These are just kind of cool players. And then we have obviously Fikayo Tomori, we have Callum Hudson-Odoi. It is quite interesting how he's built the team, built the core of the team, and kind of added a lot of talent around them. Do you think there's something in having an English core?
A lot of them are, from the youth academy. So whether it's to do with an English core, I don't know if that's just being familiar with the Premier League, maybe. If we look at Man City, who've done quite well under Pep especially, how many, English players can we think of that have been a regular in that team? Kyle Walker.
Probably just Raheem Sterling.
Yeah. I mean, they had Joe Hart as well a few seasons back. But that was it. I can't think too much of many English players in that team that have done a team that's done quite well in recent years. So I don't know if it's to do with English players.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see how it goes.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely loved our English core when Mourinho built it. So hopefully it's. I mean, if they can get even half that success, great. Yeah, I mean, a couple of Premier Leagues and a Champions League in the next 2-3 years would be great for me. I'd be happy. Not much to ask for. Andy Robertson got a hamstring injury. Joe Gomez is almost out for the whole season. Salah's got COVID. It's just kind of they're dropping like flies at the moment. Man City, obviously, they're defense. Man City.
I think Aguero's injured as well, isn't he?
Great, they've been shipping a lot of goals. He is, yeah. So, do you think this is a good opportunity for us to seize the opportunity, carpe diem, if you will, and to really make a title push? Because we're seeing Spurs, who, I mean, have absolutely no business around the Premier League, but they're doing really, really well at the moment. And they've got a guy that has won it multiple times, managing them.
We've been performing well, and I think Timo Werner said it in an interview as well. We're here to win the Champions League, and why shouldn't we have that winning mentality? If we're performing this well, okay, especially if the top contenders for the Premier League, in the most recent seasons, aren't at that same level that they have been performing. If they're having issues, okay, why shouldn't we be looking to win the Premier League? I think that should be the aim. Fair enough. Lampard said we'd be looking to close the gap between the likes of Liverpool and City, but I think that we should still look to close the points on those kinds of on the teams when they were at that kind of level. This kind of level, we should definitely be, exceeding a Man City and Liverpool. The way they're performing, the issues that they're having with their team right now, we should definitely be outperforming them and looking to be absolutely ruthless.
Yeah, I mean, the signs are there. There's a lot of kind of positive vibes going on at the moment. So let's see how it pans out. I think no more international football until March, I think now. So we'll get to see a good chunk of Premier League and a good chunk of Chelsea and kind of where they are at. They're obviously going to be playing better teams, face bigger challenges, and if we can overcome them. And by Christmas, if we're top and if we're clear by a few points, who knows? We could do the impossible.
I do have one quick question. What is it about our youth prospects getting red cards? First Reece James, now Billy Gilmore after 10 minutes of playing for Scotland.
I'll tell you what it is. It's either they're very lazy, so they don't want to play any more football, or they're incredibly competitive, so they just let themselves loose. You can take your pick, mate. I'm either way. If they're winning,
I can't wait. I can't wait for next match day now.
First ever episode. I'm expecting 1 million views on this one. I just want to see good football again, and I think we're playing winning football again. That's very exciting, and it's less about where we end up, how many points we get. It's important, but I think to get the team to gel, I think that's what's more important to me at this point. I know Newcastle have been a bit up and down. They've not been consistently good or bad. They've gotten results, but it should be a team that we should be able to kind of overcome, especially in the form that we're in. Coming off the international break, sometimes things can go a bit slow, but we've got enough time, I think, to kind of prepare and put our strongest team out and kind of go and win get 3 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it for our first episode.
Is there anything else we need to cover? First ever episode. I'm expecting 1 million views on this one. 1 million views, and it starts with mum and dad.
Yeah, it's been fun. As I said, I just wanted to do this, enjoy it. Talking about Chelsea. Enjoy speaking to you about Chelsea. It's great.
Yeah. Next week we have a guest on the podcast. His name's a bit difficult to pronounce. Didier Drogba. Didier Drogba's on the podcast next week. He might be. He might not be. We can't be certain at this point. But we will end the podcast at this point. That's for certain.
Thanks for listening in.
Yeah.